Hi all, Rick here with a video looking into another interpretation of a Constitution class vessel, redrawn for a new era. Or is it? Yes and no. Let's look at the origin, stats and role of this Excalibur class cruiser. So, in real life, the Excalibur, like the Vesper I covered last week, was designed as an alternate take on the Constitution class vessel, and in fact was simply an alternate skin for that ship in the game of Star Trek Online. However, thanks to its overhaul and the addition of new Prime canon since the game's launch, there have been retcons to make it fit in and actually solidify its own niche in the lore. While its design brief was originally to create a late 24th century Constitution class, therefore drawing from contemporaries like the Sovereign, that has since become more of a informative part of the new lore, rather than the be-all. There is also a concept by Ryan Denning that was not implemented as the Excalibur, and a popular fan-designed Excalibur that has not appeared in any licensed works as of this recording. But the topic of this video was used as early promotional artwork for STO, I suspect for its iconic reflections of the classic original Enterprise. Interestingly, out of all the design elements that are incorporated into the lore, this usage as an advertisement is one. So, onto its in-universe lore now. The Excalibur class entered production in 2381, taking a year to finalise the first prototype. To set the scene, the Federation was still rebuilding from the Dominion War, which itself had seen a radical upscaling of Starfleet's technology. The Admiralty of Starfleet wanted to continue production of the Sovereign class, which aims to make that the new backbone of the Federation. And while this would eventually come to pass, it was not as rapid as they would like. Each Sovereign took time and effort to create, and this, coupled with massive drains that was the Romulan evacuation fleet, made the large-scale production of such ships harder to accomplish. So, the Design Advisory Commission floated a new compromise. To take some of the advantages of the Sovereign class and construct a smaller and more manageable starship that could take on the more mundane roles of a workhorse vessel. Which, honestly, makes a ton more sense than constructing an entire Sovereign class only for it to be relegated to courier duties, for example. To be fair to the Admiralty, however, this is a sort of mirroring of the path of the Excelsior, as they were trying to create this with the Sovereign class but quicker, so I can see the vision. They just didn't have the resources to meet such numbers yet. The Excelsior became that vessel as it sort of slipped into the role naturally over time. They were trying to rush it with the Sovereign. So the Excalibur was the make-do compromise. So the mission profile for this Excalibur class was to be able to accomplish smaller scale exploration missions, while being able to provide fleet support and convoy duties. To this end, it was fitted with expansive cargo bays for its size, as well as a host of other adaptations around its energy output. Sacrifices were made, however, in its sensor acuity and offensive capabilities, in order to keep it to scale and resource budget. This gave it the designation of a light survey cruiser, and the prototype was launched in 2382 as the USS Excalibur NX 94547, later commissioned as NCC 78547. The ship may not have featured the expansive science labs of a true exploration vessel like the Intrepid, nor the armaments of things like the Luna, but it was very well equipped for support missions. In addition to the cargo bays, it had industrial replicators, so it could fabricate a wider range of supplies, supplementing convoy duties. This could effectively operate continuously if needed, and the Excalibur had ample surplus power reserves for its size. The higher level of power generation was used in transfers or to supplement other systems like tractor beams and shielding for a variety of purposes. The Excalibur was 350 metres long, 128 wide and 72 metres tall, with a displacement of 990,000 metric tonnes. On top of this, it can have its cargo facilities refitted quickly into additional living spaces, with a passenger capacity of up to 1,100 people in emergencies, making it ideal for missions of mercy and crisis response. It could ferry needed supplies quickly to a locale, while also acting as a respite or evacuation vessel. In terms of warp, it had a Class 8 matter-antimatter warp core with a cruise speed of warp 7 and a maximum of 9.6. It housed 2 impulse engines of sizable scale, suggesting it had the same sublight capabilities as a Sovereign class, and manoeuvrability. As mentioned, these reactors worked to produce more power than the ship required, so that it could readily provide power transfers and maintain its factory-like pace of replication. This ample power could also be channeled into various other systems, such as tractor beams, which had reinforced systems to handle the higher output. The hull was clad in titanium hull alloy, making it incredibly durable, and its shielding, while the standard design, was equally robust thanks to the power reserves available. In terms of armaments, it was relatively lightly armoured. It had 8 Type 8 phaser arrays, 3 on the upper saucer, 4 under it, and 1 on the base of the ship. This means it had no rear-placed phasers, but the saucer ones did have an uninterrupted view back. Additionally, its wide-spaced impulse engines allowed for rapid turning to bring its weapons to bear if needed. It also had only 2 variable payload torpedo launchers, both forward-facing. With how expansive the launcher section is, however, it looked to be capable of supporting a wider range of probes and deployable drone tools. It also had an expansive shuttle bay. So, while the class in real life was to resemble the Constitution on purpose, the similarities in the lore are more coincidental and merely a product of taking a pretty standard Starfleet configuration and applying the required tech to it. However, because it resembled a Constitution class, and thanks to its benevolent mission profile, it featured in much marketing and recruitment art for Starfleet. It became somewhat of a poster ship for the fleet, even featuring in dramatizations and holonovels of in-universe works of fiction because, well, it was a very Starfleet-feeling starship. The image evoked that of nostalgic heroes of old, darting around the galaxy, bringing aid and relief to needed colonies, while weathering blows of hostile aliens or phenomena. As far as propaganda goes, at least it was not painting it as the saviour of the Federation against a hostile universe, or something. And they were playing off its role as an excellent support and aid vessel. The fact is that it may look like a Constitution class combined with a Sovereign, but it was missing many of the more exciting capabilities of those inspirational ships. While it could conduct exploration missions, it lacked the science facilities and wider sensor suites to make on-site deductions, meaning that it was good for a quick survey and then reporting back its findings so Starfleet could dispatch a more appropriate ship if they needed. It also did not feature strong armaments to act as a defensive patrol ship, though it was fast and very durable, so if it encountered danger, it could hold out or flee most of the time, while again signalling for reinforcements. Most of the Sovereign-style advancements came in the form of its power generation, warp capabilities, and impulse engines. Many of the internal workings and computer systems were derived from the Sovereign too, as was the deflector array. Of course, its extensive armour plating too evoked that hardier image, and in places it had the same bladed profile. In essence, Starfleet got exactly what they needed from it, all the workhorse parts of the Sovereign without the extra firepower and grandeur that the flagship class could muster. The Excalibur was an excellent Starfleet support ship for a new age that held up the fleet, a sort of more frontline version of the California class. Though one equally at home pushing that final frontier of exploration, or darting around the sectors helping where it can. Thanks for watching this breakdown on the Excalibur class, as first depicted in Star Trek Online. I've been Rick, and until the next one, thanks again, and goodbye.